Texas Department of License and Regulation Code Enforcement Officers Advisory Board meeting to order. I've got 10:04. Please, everybody, mute your microphones and only turn them on when you speak. I remind you to announce your name when speaking so the names can be recorded, and always to keep your cameras on during the meeting. I'll turn it over to Angelica for roll call.
Yes, sir. All right. William Billy Gerber,
Here, present.
Kenneth Rocha,
Here.
Matthew Christensen,
Present.
Jonathan Campos,
Present.
Jody Nike,
Here.
Jose Baldovinos,
Here.
and Presiding Officer Stuart Walker.
Here.
You have a quorum, sir.
All right. We have two new members on the board, Jonathan Campos and William Gerber. Jonathan, would you like to introduce yourself and say anything?
Yes, thank you. I'm Jonathan Campos, small business owner and retired Air Force fire chief. Excited to be here and be part of this.
Welcome in. William Gerber, would you like to introduce yourself and say a few things?
Yeah, William Gerber. I do go by Billy. Been in public safety for just started my 35th year. I'm really excited to be put on the board, and whatever I can do to help, I'm more than available to assist.
All right. Well, welcome in. All right. I will go and call on Delma Sotero for our open government training.
Good morning. Thank you, Presiding Officer, and welcome to those board members that are new to the team. I'm fairly new, so thank you for being here and for your service. I'm going to try to share my screen. Just 1 second. Can you all see it?
Not yet. There it goes.
Okay. Can everybody see it? Because okay. So with this, again, I'm Dalma Sotero. I am the Assistant General Counsel that works with this program as well as others. I work for the department as an Assistant General Counsel, and today is my duty to present you with the open government training. Next slide. So during this training, we are going to be discussing the 3 major acts that are related to the board, and that would be the Open Meetings Act, the APA, the Administrative Procedures Act, and the Public Information Act. The Open Meetings Act. The purpose of the Open Meetings Act is to ensure that we have an open and transparent government. The act requires that meetings of governmental bodies, such as this board meeting, be open to the public and preceded by a public notice with the time, place, and subject matter of the meeting. TDLR's method of providing the required public notice is by publishing the agenda of each of our meetings, and the provisions of the Act are mandatory and liberally construed in favor of the open government. Some of the key concepts that we are going to be discussing today are quorum, that, as most of you might know, it's a majority of the members of the governmental body. In our case, we need at least 5 members to be present in order to have a quorum. If less than a quorum, The meeting can be held, but no official action can be taken. The next one is deliberation or discussion, which for the purposes of this act means a verbal or written exchange among a quorum or between a quorum and another person concerning an issue within the jurisdiction of the governmental body. Meetings. The act defines what a meeting is, and it occurs anytime a quorum of a governmental body engages in deliberation regarding public business or public policy over which the governmental body has supervision or control, or anytime the body takes formal action. The next key concept is notice. Like I mentioned earlier, the board may not engage in discussions about a subject that is not included in the agenda. This notice must be filed with the Texas Secretary of State at least 7 days before a meeting and is posted on the TDLR's and the Secretary of State's website. Keeping in mind that a meeting occurs whenever a quorum is of the board engages in discussion about an issue within the board's jurisdiction, can members ever meet in an informal setting without violating the Open Meetings Act? The answer would be yes. Members are free to engage in conversation incidental to the event. However, if a quorum of members is involved and either engage in a discussion or make a decision about board business or take a formal action, the discussion will be subject to the Open Meetings Act. Key points to remember about the Open Meetings Act. Always be aware of any situation occurring outside of the properly noticed meeting in which a quorum of members is present or engaged in discussion. Do not engage in substantive conversations relating to the board's business or board policy when a quorum when a quorum is involved and you are outside of an officially noticed and scheduled meeting. And beware the walking quorum. What's a walking quorum? A walking quorum occurs when less than a quorum of members engage in discussion about official business and then communicate those discussions to other members. While fewer than a quorum of members participated in the initial discussion, the following communication with the other members result in a quorum discussing official business outside of a public meeting. So it would be considered a meeting according to the Act. But here we have an example. On a 5-member advisory board, 2 members exchange phone calls and emails expressing thoughts on an upcoming rule change and exchanged research done individually regarding that issue. One of the board members forwards the exchange to another board member. So now we have 3 out of 5 board members discussing official business outside of a public meeting, and these members have now engaged in a walking quorum. Walking quorums can occur during conference calls, video conferences, hallway discussions, email, text, posts on social media. So not necessarily in a meeting setting. Best practices to avoid a walking quorum is members should not meet in small groups, discuss board business, and then communicate those discussions to other members. Send emails or text messages to a quorum of members regarding official business, even if each message is addressed and sent to members individually. Avoid posts on social media about board business where a likelihood exists that a quorum of members could get involved in the discussions, or ask a quorum of members, even on an individual basis, for feedback or comments on board business outside of a public meeting. This is called polling and is essentially conducting an informal vote on an issue. Guidelines for open meetings. The board is limited to discuss the specific items on the agenda posted. During the public comment portion of the meeting, members of the public are given the opportunity to speak, and the presiding officer may set reasonable limits on the commenters. A member of the public or a member of the board may raise a subject that has not been included in the agenda. However, any discussions on that particular subject must be limited to a proposal to place it on the agenda for a future meeting. The penalties, remedies for a violation of an Open Meetings Act. Here it is. So there are civil remedies according to the statute, to the act, and any interested person, including the media, may petition the courts to stop actions taken in violation of the Open Meetings Act. The act also specifically states that an action taken in violation of the act is voidable. I apologize. Here you are. Criminal penalties. A violation of the act may also result in criminal penalties. Members who knowingly participate in a walking quorum or who knowingly participate in a meeting that is closed to the public are subject to misdemeanor criminal penalties of a fine from $100 to $500, confinement in a county jail of 1 to 6 months, or both. So the best practices with the Open Meetings Act is avoid communications that involve a quorum of board members about official business outside of a properly noticed public meeting, and confine discussions to items specifically posted on the agenda. Here we have a list of some resources that you can find interesting and informative, but you can also contact the Office of the General Counsel, and we'll be happy to address any concerns or any questions that you may have. Are there any questions about the Open Meetings Act? Okay. So let's go then to discuss the Administrative Procedures Act, the APA. The purpose of the APA is are to essentially establish the minimum standards of uniform practices and procedures for state agencies, and provide public participation and transparency during the rulemaking process. The APA defines what's a rule as a statement of general applicability made by a state agency that implements, interprets, or prescribes law or policy, or describes the procedure or practice requirements of a state agency. According to the APA, the definition of a rule includes a new rule, an amendment to an existing rule, or the repeal of an existing rule, but do not include a statement that's only related to internal management or organization of an agency that do not affect private rights or procedures. Sources for rulemaking. The rulemaking process may originate from legislative changes, advisory board recommendations, or TDLR staff recommendation, the four-year rule review, or a rule petition. According to the APA, any interested person may submit a petition to a state agency requesting the adoption of a rule. An interested person is anyone who is a Texas resident, a business entity located in Texas, a governmental subdivision in Texas, or a public or private organization that is not a state agency but is located in Texas. Here we have the flow chart of TDLR's rulemaking process. We are missing some steps here, but just for you to have an idea of how complex and how detailed the process is, there is a flow chart. We start to the left, like when there's a rule idea, we start drafting that rule. The rule goes through an internal review and analysis, and if it's favorable, then it goes to the governor's office for review, and then presented to the advisory board in a public meeting for your comments. That draft rule then is filed with the Secretary of State to be published in the Texas Register, and we wait for a 30-day public comment period to then review all the public comments and discuss it in a second advisory board meeting with any changes that may have surfaced from the public comment period. If everything goes well, then the advisory board recommended for adoption, and the department recommends it for adoption, then the proposed rules are adopted by the commission, and the adoption notice is filed with the Texas Register again, so it can be published and effective. Here's a flowchart of the rule review process, which is another process that's established in the APA. Every 4 years, each agency has to review each of the rules, and we are currently undergoing through this process with a few of our programs. And here you have another list of resources that can help you with understanding the rulemaking process, including the Office of the General Counsel's phone number, so you can call us if you have any concerns or any questions. The last act that we are discussing today is the Public Information Act. Many of you are familiar with it. And according to the act, we call it also the Open Records Act. It is intended to allow public access to information about the affairs of government and the official acts of public officials and employees. The act makes all documents, records, and other information relating to the official business open to the public with some exceptions. Public information includes any electronic communication created, transmitted, received, or maintained on any device of it if it is in connection with the official business of the agency. And this one is very important because some people think that because they save information in their personal computers or cell phones or any electronic device, that's going to be protected. But the act now is very clear on that information that's related to public business, no matter where it's located, it could be in public information. And the act, it's always going to be liberally interpreted in favor of granting a request for information. The public may request copies of public information or request to inspect the information in the offices of the governmental body. A request must be submitted in writing. TDLR does it through the record center. It's another, you can find it on our website. It's a platform that the Open Records team uses to receive, process, and send the public information requests. And TDLR must respond to any request as soon as possible, but no later than 10 business days after receiving the request. We cannot ask why somebody wants the information or is requesting for public information. So everything that is requested, if we don't have a clarification need, must be provided without questions. General rule and common exceptions to the disclosure. The general rule is the presumption of openness, but certain information is required to be redacted from open records. And here are the most common examples: information, date of birth, email addresses, if they're personal email addresses, driver's information, credit card numbers, HIPAA information, etc. There are a few exceptions to the rule, but these are the most common. An OAG ruling must be sought to redact or withhold other information. So whenever we think that there is information that should be excluded from the public based on one of the exceptions that are listed in the Act, we need to ask the OAG for a ruling and wait for them to respond. If they say that the information should maintain to be confidential, that's what we do, and we notify the requester. But if the OAG decides that the information should be disclosed, it will be. Requests received by an advisory board member. As an advisory board member, if you receive a written request for records or correspondence that looks like a public information request, please forward it as soon as possible to the advisory board team, because they will then forward it to the open records team. There is a very short time frame for us to process those. It's 10 business days. So as soon as you receive that in writing, if it looks like an open records request, please notify us. And here's the list of the resources that you can access for more information on the Public Information Act. I think that concludes my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
All right, thank you, Dalma. Okay, next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. The board members received the minutes of the November 14th, 2024 meeting and the meeting materials. Does anybody have any comments regarding that? Hearing none, I'll call for a motion to approve.
This is Victor Baldovinos. Motion to approve.
All right, just need a second.
Second by Kenneth Rocha.
All right. Angelica, will you do a roll call vote?
Yes, sir. Billy Gerber,
Yes, approved.
Kenneth Rocha,
Aye.
Matthew Christensen,
Yes.
Jonathan Campos,
Yes.
Jody Nike.
Approve.
Jody, can I get you to turn on your camera for me as well? Jose Victor Baldovinos. Thank you.
Aye.
Do Did you say aye, Mr. Baldwin?
Aye,
I apologize. I
yes,
didn't
sir.
quite hear it. I apologize. And presiding officer Stuart Walker.
Aye.
Motion passes, sir.
All right. Next on the agenda is public comments. The Code Enforcement Officers Advisory Board did not receive any public comments for this meeting. So we'll jump into the next item agenda. Staff reports. Regina Horton with the Licensing Division.
Good morning, advisory board members. My name is Regina Horton, and I am the team lead for the health professions team, and I will be providing the statistics for the Code Enforcement Officers Advisory Board. You should have a copy of the report in front of you. You can follow along. So I'm going to report numbers for fiscal year 2026, the month of October. For new licenses issued, there was a total of 27. We renewed a total of 68 licenses with 61 renewals done online, and the total renewed online was 90%. The total population was 2,795. This is for code enforcement officers, I'm sorry. So next we have code enforcement officers in training. Fiscal year 2026, the month of October, we issued a total of 16 new licenses. We renewed a total of 11 with 100% renewing online, and the total population was 211. This concludes my report. Do we have any questions? Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Regina.
You're welcome.
Next up is Education and Examination Division, Simone Carter.
Good morning, advisory board members. My name is Simone Cortez, and I'm a program specialist 3 on our exams team. For today's report, our first statistics are our examination statistics. I cannot say that word this week. So we have our pass rate for fiscal year 2025 at the top, and pass rate for fiscal year 2024 on the bottom. Scrolling down a little bit, please. Our next one we have is our continuing education provider approvals for fiscal year 2025. This concludes my report. I'm available if you have any questions.
All right. Thank you, Simone. I got your last name wrong. It's Cortez. Apologize.
No worries.
All right. Next up is Customer Service Division with Mona.
Good morning, advisory board members and TDLR staff. My name is Mona Jason. I am the Director Executive Assistant, standing for Myra Rodriguez, who's the manager for this program. And as you can see on your screen, our statistic reports show an increase in our contacts for our emails and phone calls for fiscal year 2026 for the month of November, and in comparison to fiscal year 2025. And there has been an increase in our phone calls and emails for that month. And that concludes my report. I'll be happy to take any questions.
All right. Thank you, Mona.
Thank you.
Next up is Enforcement Division with Stuart Bagish.
Good morning, board members. My name is Stuart Bagish. I'm a prosecutor with TDLR's Enforcement Division. I will present the Enforcement Division staff report today, focusing on some statistics involving the Enforcement Division's work with the Code Enforcement Officers Program. The staff report follows a format with which you are familiar, and I'm prepared to discuss its details if you would like. The only thing in the staff report that I wanted to call your attention to specifically is the performance measures at the top of page 1, where it shows the number of cases opened and the number of cases closed have decreased from fiscal year 2024 to fiscal year 2025, and the average time for closing cases has increased from fiscal year 2024 to fiscal year 2025. That is a result of an unforeseen staffing issue, which we do not expect to occur again. On the positive side, we expect the staff report for the next meeting to reflect improvement in these categories. There are no case highlights in the staff report. And at the bottom of page 3, it shows that there have been 0 code enforcement officer violations resulting in disciplinary action, which is great news. That concludes my report, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
All right. Not hearing any questions. Thank you, Stuart. Next up, the Compliance Division, Ari.
Thank you. Good morning, Presiding Officer and Advisory Board members. It's wonderful to be with you this morning. My name is Adia Acevedo, and I will be presenting the report on behalf of the Compliance Division for you this morning. Firstly, we have had some personnel updates on the Health and Wellness team. Steve Eaker was promoted to our manager, and I was promoted to fill his position overseeing podiatry, orthotics, prosthetics. And I have also had the pleasure of working on code enforcement and sanitarians for this year. Anna Clark was previously with the advisory board team, and she's now our team lead. Mr. Stuart Myrick, who you all know, has retired, and we do miss him dearly. Mr. Rick Garza, who was lead on code enforcement and sanitarians, has announced his retirement, and he'll be riding off into the sunset in January. So we wish him the best. And lastly, Mr. Tedrick Woods was hired in November, and he'll be working with code enforcement and sanitarians, as well as overseeing the athletic trainers and behavior analysts. So you'll be seeing Mr. Woods this year. As far as current projects go, the Texas legislative session adjourned in June of this year, and 2 of the bills passed during this session do regard code enforcement. So we are working on bill implementation right now for the following bills. Firstly, we have Senate Bill 1376, which allows an applicant to register as a code enforcement officer in training and to engage in code enforcement without the supervision necessarily of a licensed code enforcement officer if and only if the employer of the CIT does not also employ a registered code enforcement officer. In other words, their supervisor may be someone other than a licensed code enforcement officer. As far as House Bill 4765, there's a small typo there. It's not a Senate bill. It's actually a House Bill 4765. That one cleans up and clarifies the language on reciprocity by allowing out-of-state applicants for Texas licensure who have training that is substantially equivalent to the training that is provided here in Texas. As far as more current projects, our compliance staff does continue to collaborate with other TDLR divisions with questions and in gathering information for legislative updates and presentations that the compliance staff does do. Compliance staff also addresses daily questions and emails from licensees across the state. As far as outreach goes, our compliance staff ran an informational booth at both the CEAT conference in Garland in February of this year and the TOA meeting in Galveston in March. And in May of this year, staff attended 2 events and answered questions at both. The TIHA Central in San Marcos, staff also gave a presentation at that one, and the BPI in Irving, Texas. There were also 2 exam review committees for code enforcement in 2025. They were both in downtown Austin, Texas. The education and compliance staff were very pleased to work with PSI and subject matter experts in code from around the state in both April and September. I was able to attend the September ERC, and I had the absolute pleasure to meet Mr. Rocha there, actually. So thank you, sir. Thank you to you and your colleagues for a wonderful exam review experience in September. In October of this year, our staff held a booth and gave a presentation at TIHA in College Station and at BPI in Austin in November. And I loved meeting everyone from BPI there this past November. And just earlier this month, we had the honor of attending TIHA South Texas in South Padre Island. So we manned a booth there, and I was able to give the legislative updates presentation to both code enforcement officers and sanitarians. So we want to say thank you to TIHA South Texas for the hospitality, and thank you, Mr. Victor, so much. It was a very big pleasure to meet you there. I am prepared to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Chair, this is Kenneth. Can I just make a comment?
I can hear you, Mr. Kenneth.
Okay. I wanted to thank you, RN. It was a pleasure meeting you. Also, we wish the best for Rick. We got to know Rick and what he does to support our industry, both SANS and registered code enforcement officers. So we wish Rick the best, and we look forward to the future with personnel mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rocha.
All right. Can I remind all the board members to remember to leave their cameras on during the meeting? You can unmute if you're not speaking, but please leave your cameras on. Next up is an agency update from Susanna Holt-Cotrone.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members. I'm the Chief of Staff for TDLR and wanted to congratulate you, Mr. Walker, on your reappointment to presiding officer. And thank you, Audie, for the very great report, including the legislative updates relevant to this program. I just have a few additional agency-wide updates from kind of a bigger picture perspective for your information. Some of the highlights from last year are that as of September 1st of 2025, we serve more than 1 million licensees in the state of Texas. In FY25, the agency fielded more than 12,000 consumer complaints and conducted more than 7,000 investigations, resulting in more than $800,000 in restitution for consumers. Additional legislative activity from the 89th legislative session brought some organizational changes to TDLR with the addition of the Texas Lottery and Charitable Bingo programs. We now have an additional 315 staff, and there is a dedicated transition team that has assisted not only with bringing that former agency over under our umbrella, but also to integrating the administrative functions and all of the programmatic functions for the most efficient operations. The lottery successfully generated $1.8 billion for the state of Texas in FY25 from $7.91 billion in total sales. This financial contribution comes despite significant market challenges and new consumer protection measures. The vast majority of the lottery's revenue supports essential state services, including public education and Texas veterans. Senate Bill 1036 also created a new program at TDLR, and that is the regulation of residential solar retailers, which will begin implementation in 2026. And as a result, we now oversee 41 programs. House Bill 4216 created the regulation of delivery network companies such as Uber Eats, and Audie had gone over House Bill 4765 as well as Senate Bill 1376, which includes some amendments to the occupations code for code enforcement officers. We also are working with the vendor who was selected to develop the new licensing system. It is referred to as TDLR Core, and it will take all of our licensing systems and integrate them into one. It is a 3-year project, and the implementation is focused on different groups of programs, and that's being built out, which will bring efficiencies and modernization to our licensees. And we will keep you all updated as this project progresses. So that's what I have today. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
All right, not hearing any questions. Thank you, Susanna. Next on the agenda, appointment and reappointment of work groups. I'll call on Angelica and give us information on that.
Yes, sir. So with Mr. McKinney resigning from the board, and along with Marie Brown, we have a couple of vacancies on some of our work groups. So just kind of go over them real quick. For the new members, we have the enforcement work group, which would help with criminal conviction guidelines and the penalty matrix and any rules pertaining to that. And right now we have Mr. Walker and Mr. Rocha. So we can have 4 because that's under a quorum. We can't have a quorum on these work groups. So I need 2 members for that one. For licensing, licensing would deal with licensing requirements, rules, potential compliance and administrative matters. And on that one, I have Mr. Walker, Mr. Christensen, and Mr. Baldovino. So I would need 1 more member for that one. And then the last one we have is for education and examination. And that one would deal with continuing education requirements, rules, and items relating to education and examination. For that one, I have Mr. Christensen, Mr. Rocha, and Ms. Nike. So I would need 1 more person. So I'm just going to start from the top. If anyone wants to be moved from enforcement or wants to be added, again, I have Mr. Walker and Mr. Rocha at the moment. So I need 2 members who want to volunteer. Anyone? Or Mr. Walker can volunteer someone.
We got.
I'll let you volunteer.
Mr. Gerber, if you don't mind turning on your camera for me, are you volunteering?
Yes, and I don't know why my camera keeps shutting off.
Oh no.
Yes, I would like to volunteer.
Okay.
William Gerber.
Okay. I need 1 more. Mr. Campos, I know you're new if you want to. Or if there's another one that you want to, like we have a vacancy for licensing and education and examination.
Yeah, this is Jonathan Campos. Education, I could jump on that.
Okay. So I need 1 more for licensing and enforcement.
Be
Would
happy
anybody
to do
else?
that. Victor Baldovinos,
For which one, Mr. Baldovinos? Oh, so you're already on licensing, so
the last
enforcement.
one.
Okay. All right, so I have 1 more for licensing. Mr. Christensen, you're already on 2, so I don't know if you want to be on another one. Let's see.
This is Jonathan Campos.
Would you like to do that?
I'll
one too,
volunteer
Mr.
for
Campos?
licensing.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. That was easy. So when there are rules or topics that need to be addressed by the board but need to meet in smaller groups, we will have staff reach out to those assigned to those work groups to meet. They will discuss the agenda item or the matter that needs to be discussed and come back to the full board and give a report. Those may meet a couple times a year, just kind of depending on if there's any rules or issues that need to be addressed. So, awesome.
All right, so that's settled. Next on the agenda, recommendations for item agendas for the next board meeting. Does anybody have any agenda item issues that they would want to bring up?
Hey, Chair, this is Kenneth Rocha. I know the PSI test will be updated Jan 1. So I know Simone and team have done a good job with integrating themselves into promoting that the new test will come up, as well as some of our vendors, especially Teeks. What I would ask is any impact to licensing or renewals, or not renewals, but for obtaining new CEOs or CEOs in training, any impact after the first of the year or after the implementation of that. So maybe some information about that rollout. and if there's anything that may prohibit that rollout for the next meeting or the status.
Simone Cortez, Education and Examination Division. Mr. Rocha will be glad to
Hi.
provide that information. I think it will, how much information we have will depend on our next meeting date, but we'll be sure to prepare whatever we have.
All right, any other potential agenda items? Yeah, I think that will be some valuable information, but it may, yeah, depending on our next meeting, that'll determine how much information is actually available. Being that on the next item on the agenda, discussion of date, time, and location, next board meeting, Angelica will get with us and poll us, see when we can all get back together. Anything else, Angelica?
No, sir. If y'all think of anything in the meantime that you would like to see on the next agenda, please feel free to call me, email me. If you think of something after the fact, for sure, just get with me. I do know, I'll maybe let Dalma talk about, I do believe she's working on some rules. So depending on when that is wrapped up, we'll have a better idea of when our next meeting will be. But we do plan to start meeting at minimum at least once a year.
That is correct. They're working on the bill implementation, so we will have to meet soon.
All right, we'll look forward to it. All right, nothing else on the agenda. So I will adjourn this meeting at 10:51 a.m.